Are you sick of living in the shadow with someone else? Need some help learning to love yourself and tap into your unique strengths, or embrace your leadership potential so you can thrive in your life? This is Empower with Nancy. Let's start the show. Oh.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another episode with Empower with Nancy. And I'm super excited today. I have a wonderful guest, Dr. Donese Warden, and we're going to talk about 7 pillars of self-check-in, the mindset and disease prevention, and breast cancer studies, and so much more. So I want to formally introduce you. Donese Warden is a female face of medicine, is an award-winning physician, researcher, and global health educator who expertly and compassionately bridges the world of conventional, allopathic, and advanced alternative medicine. As a neuropathic medical doctor, she is licensed in prescribing both pharmaceutical and nutraceuticals. Her passion is in helping people interpret medical science so that they can take charge of their health and make more informed decisions. Welcome, Donese. And I want to talk about, I see that you have a new book coming out, The Warrior's Guide to Cancer.
Yeah, we haven't settled on the title. I keep going back to What to Do in 72, but either way, that book is really about the minute someone has been find out that they're diagnosed with cancer, what are the steps? Because they go in fear and in panic, and they're scheduled for surgery and chemo and all this, and they don't even know their doctor's names, and that's just not a good way to do it. And so, what I do with all of my patients and clients that come to me, I take them through these steps. This is what we think about. Give yourself at least a couple of days, that's 72 hours, and let's put together a plan so you feel empowered when you go in to make your decisions. So you understand your choices and not be saying, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have made a different decision. So the book is about putting together that plan and taking the time to do it.
That is super important, because the minute you hear that C word, you panic, right?
That's
And
right.
it's all
That's
you're
right.
thinking automatically, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die. You know, I lost my mom of breast cancer when I was 17, and I have some really good friends that had cancer that survived. And you know, I think, you know, and then you hear on social media, doctor, that everything you eat causes cancer. So I'm really excited to educate my audience with the 7 pillars of check-in. So let's start with that.
All right. So it's kind of like a health audit. And I think we should do it more than just once. We should do it every, quarter at least. And here's what I want everybody to do is to write down or type in these 7 words: sleep, body, bowel movement. So BM, yes, we're going to talk about the poop, energy, mental, relationships, and spiritual.
Wow.
So what I'd like to do is go through very quickly, and I'm going to have everyone rate themselves and do their own health audit. It's a scale of 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 10. So number 1, for sleep, how much quality sleep are you getting? REM sleep, deep sleep, do you know? Or you're wearing an Aura ring or some other wearable that lets you know. But you would rate yourself a 1 if you can't get to sleep or you can't stay asleep, having real trouble with it. And a 10 would be you wake up, you're ready to go, and after 8 hours of deep restorative sleep, and then you just have energy throughout your day. So you may be somewhere in between, but rate 1 to 10. These are all very important pillars of health and have been tied to every chronic degenerative disease there is, including cancer. So number 2 is your body. So this is beyond your weight, your physique. It's not a stat. It's not your BMI. My point is, are you happy with it? And do you feel good? So 1 is weak and flabby, and you don't like looking in the mirror. There are a lot of skinny, soft people walking around, right? So are you weak and flabby and you just don't like looking at yourself in the mirror? A 10 is you love your body, it's working well, and you're taking good care of it. Okay, so make that number 1 to 10. Next one, bowel movement. Yes, the BM stands for talking about our poop, and it is one of the biggest pillars of health. It has to do with your neurotransmitters, your brain chemistry, your microbiome, which is your immune system. It's an important piece. So let's talk real quickly about what a normal bowel movement looks like. That's from your wrist to your elbow, that long, wrist to elbow, and about as big around as your wrist in the middle. It should be a medium brown color. It
Okay.
shouldn't stink very much. Sometimes you eat a certain thing, but most times it shouldn't have a strong odor. And it should be easily passed into a log, formed into a soft, easily passed log. So a number one,
What?
yeah. And most people go, what? What? That
I
long?
did, right?
Yeah.
Right when you said, I'm like, wow. And everyone's
Yeah.
probably thinking,
Yeah.
that is huge.
Then I say, has that ever happened? You know,
Right.
if you can in a day get 2 in and about get that much out, that's probably okay. You may be emptying enough. But if you're not, if it's thinner, if it's shorter, you're probably holding on like most people do. I think the standard average American on autopsy was 42 pounds of fecal matter, because it gets stuck in these little
Wow.
loops, these little halster. You can get a little bowel movement out, but you can't get all the stuff on the side. So you're leaking toxins back in. You're not able to absorb your nutrients. There's all kinds of things that go wrong. So you literally should be emptying the bowel like that every day. So
Wow.
a one would be stinky poo. It's short. It's rabbit pellets. It's anything that is well beyond what I just described. Right?
Uh-huh.
And a 10 is every day. I describe this and the patients laugh, and it's true. Sometimes you look back and you go, wow, you're not going to show anybody, but you kind of wish you could, because you're like, wow, that was a good one. So that is what we're after, is every day having that easily passed bowel movement. And women in general tend to go more into the constipation mode because of the way we think. Our brains never turn off. All that. Men go, yes, that's what this looks like.
And they're excited about it.
Oh, and they want to show everybody. That's right. And women, we truly are more anal, not to be put that pun in there, but it's true. It's true. And when we travel, there's more likelihood of having a constipation issue. So, but we really most of the time should be having that really good cleansing of the body. It's very important.
And is there also, now that we're talking about that, I also hear that sometimes if it's floating, that you have good fiber and what have you, and drinking a ton of water. I mean, there's so much around that, especially when you're fully menopause. I'm fully menopause. I'll disclose I'm fully menopause. And I notice that my body does change, especially the sleeping habits. And I'm rating myself right now.
Right. So, with the bowel movements, it is going to change with your food, whether it floats or whether it sinks. That depends on what you ate in the day before or 2 days. You really should have a certain time period of what we call a transit time. By the time you eat something, when you should see it the next time.
Okay.
And that all depends on food. If most of the time it's not sinking to the bottom, and if it's not yellow or orange or fatty or mucusy looking floating up at the top, you're probably okay. But it will change according to what you eat.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice to know.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of like, what?
Didn't know we were going to stick all in that is, but when you make the changes you need to make, and you have better digestion and better health in the whole microbiome, and you start having those types of bowel movements, you look at it and go, wow, okay, how did that even come out of me? It literally can be that large because it goes through this whole tunnel. So it should be about what I'm talking about. So
wow,
it's a goal.
And doctor, nobody talks about that.
No,
right?
No, nobody wants to talk.
We don't talk about poop.
That's right. It's interesting. Women will talk about menopause, even though they don't want to, and vaginal dryness and blah, blah, blah. All this, right? But it comes to bowel movements, everybody kind of closes up. And it's like, you're hearing all this about the microbiome and how important that is, and the studies that we're doing for every disease that you're talking about. Well, that's what we have a microbiome throughout our whole body, every
Right.
tissue, every organ. But bowel movements are some of the most important. Disease begins and ends many times in the gut. So we need to pay a lot more attention to it and be talking more about it.
Right. It definitely sits there. And, um, full disclosure, like I told you, my podcast is very open and organic.
Good.
When we had, certain age, you have to have the colonoscopy and everything. And, I had my first one. My husband and I went in together, and I thought, oh my gosh, I was so scared. And the procedure was like absolutely nothing. It's
Nothing.
the
Yeah. It's the
prepping of
prep.
it. And I thought, but you know what though? After you do the full prep, you feel so clean. You're even scared to
That's
like
right.
eat. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I want to eat everything healthy. But
Yeah.
when you're cleaned out, you feel amazing.
That's right.
And
That's right.
you feel amazing.
Yeah, that
All
just
right.
tells you, if the body's having to reabsorb those toxins that it's supposed to be getting rid of and can't, and it's
Yes.
having to sit there and work hard to try to digest your food, all your energy, your
Mhm.
ATP is going toward digestion instead of giving you energy to do all the things you want to do in
Right.
life,
Makes
right?
sense. Yeah, makes
Yeah,
sense.
very important. Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
speaking of
Thank
energy, that's the next pillar, right?
Okay.
So that energy is, you should be ready to go in the morning, get out of bed without coffee. You should be able to go. I'm not against coffee if we've got
Right.
adrenal glands that are okay, but you should have good energy without coffee and not crash in the afternoon or at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So a one is waking up tired and you're tired all day and then you can't get to sleep at night. That's called wired and tired. That means your brain's still wired, it's still going, but you are physically tired, emotionally,
Mhm.
mentally tired. Everything is tired, but you're still wired up. And
Mhm.
that's a one, and that's not a great
Not good. Right.
position to be in either. Yeah, a 10, I give the example of my dad is 90 now, and he
Oh, wow.
golfs 18 holes 3 times a week. He goes to the gym and lifts weights. He goes dancing, and he's got on a new girlfriend. And so that's the
Wow.
way we're supposed to age, and that's the energy we're supposed to have, right? And my dad at 88 got caught skinny dipping. They forgot their swimsuits at this spa that they went to that was out by a spring or something. So they thought
Uh-huh.
nobody was around, but they were.
And
But anyway,
he got caught.
that
That is an amazing
isn't that a great
story.
story? Yep, that's a great story. So
Love
that's the
it.
way we're. Yeah, when people say, "Oh, I'm getting kind of tired. I'm just getting older," I go, don't
Yeah.
use that age thing. Now, we may need a nap in the afternoon that spikes growth hormone, other things that support us, that's okay. But you really shouldn't be stopped from doing anything you want to do. So if your energy is not good, that is your body giving you a signal you should not be ignoring.
Wow.
There's something there. It doesn't mean cancer.
Right. Right.
Could be,
You
but it
don't
could be
know.
something else.
Absolutely.
It means pay attention. Right.
I can't take naps in the middle of the day. I feel it now. Cat naps, 10-15 minutes,
That's good.
where you're not fully rested,
That's
but I
good.
still can't even do that. But doing a nap, I don't know why. It's like when waking up, you feel more groggy and tired when you're taking a nap compared to in the
Yeah.
morning.
It depends. A lot of people are natural nappers, and as you age, napping actually spikes growth hormone. It's a good thing. And as you get older, your body may say, "Oh, okay, I'm okay with a nap." I don't like you napping over 30 minutes because that
Mm.
disrupts the nighttime cycle, right?
Mhm,
So a
mhm,
15-20 minute nap is a good little cat nap. But if
mhm.
your body's not needing it and you don't feel like you need it, then okay. But if the reason why you're not being able to take that nap is that wired and tired thing I'm talking about, then
Yes.
you've got other things to work on, which like your adrenal glands, because we push hard, especially as
Mhm.
women.
We
We
do.
do lots of hats, right?
Mhm.
And our adrenal glands that produce cortisol and epinephrine, the adrenaline that we can pull a car off of a child underneath it, that
Yes.
all those hormones, right? Um, we're supposed to make them when we need to push the car up. but we're
Mhm.
not supposed to be running on them all day
Oh,
long. And what
yes.
happens is we tend to do that. And your adrenal glands don't know the difference between a bear behind you and you need to be in survival mode and you need to
Mhm.
kick in and run and survive. It doesn't know the difference between that and your mother-in-law coming to stay with you. It doesn't know. It's, you
It
know, it just
Yeah,
knows you're
no, it
telling
makes
them I'm
sense.
in survival mode.
Yes, yes. Especially, and I'm a workaholic and I
Yep,
have a bad habit where it's like work, 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 work.
yep,
And then I work from home and I have my own office here, but still it's you just have to know that's where that time management stop. Like I have a sticky on my monitor says, okay, stop the clock at 5 o'clock. Right.
yep,
And
yep, yep.
but it's tough, but it does get in the way because then you stay up late and then you're going to bed super late, and then when you wake up in the morning you're exhausted, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
wow.
That one of the most important things about sleep is trying to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time every day because your circadian rhythms get used to that. Whatever
Mhm.
that time, we want about 8 hours of sleep, to give or take an hour or so, but you want about 8. And even on weekends, you really want to try to get in that circadian rhythm of your body knowing it's night and day. That means make your bedroom dark, make it
Yeah.
cold, and really try to shut the electronics off. There's
Oh.
lots of things that we can do to
Mhm.
try to help our sleep, but what happens is we're going, and then you lay down and you go, I really need to get to sleep because tomorrow's
Mhm.
important. I got to get to sleep, got to get to sleep, but your
And then you're
brain
not
waves are
sleeping.
still up here.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
your brain waves are going a million miles an hour. It's called high beta or beta. And then you're asking it to go into these slow, orderly delta rhythms. And it can't
Mhm.
get from here
Mhm.
to this slow. And one
Mhm.
of the best ways is music. I think I told you whenever we were talking about doing this show about my husband, Barry Goldstein. He does a lot of the music for Dr. Joe Dispenza and it works with Dave Asprey and Dr. Daniel Amen. And I could go on and on because his
Yes.
music is really geared to entrain your brain waves with your heart rate to slow everything down, getting into an orderly rhythm so you can get to sleep. So
Mhm.
ambient music that doesn't have a lot of melody, if any, doesn't
Mhm.
have a bird here or whatever that's keeping your brain active. It's just trying to get everything to match, which is called entrainment,
Right.
slow it down and make it an orderly rhythm. And music is a perfect way. But what do? We turn on the TV. TV is going, brains up here, and we finally crash. And that's not a great way
Eh,
because you can't get any
I'm
good
glad
sleep.
that you brought that up because it's my husband cannot go to sleep without the darn TV. It
Mhm,
drives me crazy. And
mhm.
with me, it's like, let's turn off the TV because it's hard. He can fall asleep
Yeah,
very quickly.
yeah,
Not with me. I have the app Calm,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll listen to some of the music there, and I
yeah,
just kind of relax, and then you go
yeah.
to sleep. But yeah, the TV, electronics, I don't turn it on, but I'll put it on mute. But yeah, it's all distractions. But yeah, that darn
It is.
TV. I
Yeah,
honestly think it's a man thing. Like the men have to have their TV on. Not
well,
all,
it's
but some.
interesting, men's and women's brains, okay? So men, literally, when you ever ask a man and you say, "What are you thinking about?" And they go, "Nothing," and you get
Right.
upset, going, "What do you mean you're thinking about nothing?" They
Mhm.
can think about nothing. They can literally turn their brains
I
off where there's
agree.
not a lot of activity going on, and they know how to do it. It's
Yep.
natural.
Right.
Women, we do not and cannot, we never shut our brains off. It's always wiring and firing left side to right side. We're very different animals. We've very different brains.
Mhm.
So, yeah, men can watch TV a little bit easier and then fall asleep and be shut off. Women are still going to be entrained and still going
Yep.
with that TV. And the way
Yep.
you prove it is you get some kind of wearable. I like the Aura Ring or others like that, and you see how much deep sleep and REM sleep do you have. Stick it on your husband. Say, look, see there? You're not sleeping
Yes.
as great as you thought you were. And then you
Yes.
make concessions of what that nighttime routine looks like.
Yeah, and he can even get up super early, like
Mhm.
3, 4 hours of sleep. I'm wide awake, and then, he'll work or watch a little bit of TV. To me, if I'm sitting there watching TV, I cannot sit down and watch TV for hours.
Yeah.
I get that anxiety. I'm like, I feel like I have to do something, right? Something around the house,
Yeah.
work, what have you. But it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
true. Our brains are completely different.
and learning your patterns. Your patterns are different from other women, so that's where those wearables
Absolutely.
are good for a while. You don't have to wear them all the time, but just to understand your heart rate variability and other things that really let you know big markers of health and sleep and rest and energy levels and all that. It's really important. Then you start saying, oh, when I do this, I don't look as good, I don't feel as good, and my data doesn't look good.
Hmm.
Or you say, hey, when I do this, I'm doing really well. So you can learn what are your personalized rhythms, right, of what's best for you.
And what recommendations, the wearables, do you recommend?
I like the Aura Ring just because, I mean, you can wear any of the, they have Fitbit, they have the Apple Watches. They're all doing now kind of the similar things. But I like
Hmm.
the ring, Aura Ring, because it gives me heart rate variability. It gives me a lot, and it's easy. It goes to your phone, you look at it, the reports are easy. Now they've, tapped that into music and all things as well. So just the Aura Ring, I think, is the least one of the least expensive good ways to go to monitor
Okay.
this. Okay.
Perfect. Well noted.
Yeah. So
What's the
your
next
so
one?
your next pillar, if you're not
Ah,
sleeping well, if you're not sleeping well, you know it with energy, but what else do you notice? Your mental state,
mhm,
cognition, clarity, your focus, your memory, all those
mhm,
things. And when you're
mhm.
like, oh, it's just not wiring and firing today, but you're like, well, I didn't sleep well last night. So a one is you're having trouble understanding, your listeners are having trouble right now understanding what we're talking about. That would be a one. They can't focus, can't listen, they don't
Right.
understand.
Yes, yeah.
That's one.
That's
A
a bad
10,
one.
that's a bad one. That's right. That's right. And
Wow.
then a 10 is not remembering the highlights of what you and I have been talking about, being able to repeat it to somebody. Like if you ask somebody, hey, what did we just talk about? Just the big pieces. What
Yeah.
did we just talk about? They should be able to
Mhm,
recall that.
mhm.
Right. And so word retrieval, like if you catch yourself going, oh, what's that word? What's that word? And it's happening more often, that's a sign of some cognition issues that need to be looked at, right? And
Mhm.
we don't want to wait until there's major problems. And when we talk a bit, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about cancer in a little bit. When we talk about that, the same therapies that we're using, the metabolic therapies that work on cancer, work on Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, every neurological diseases, cardiovascular disease, all the bad, diabetes, obesity, all the bad stuff gets worked on with these
Yes.
metabolic therapies. So we'll talk about those in a minute. But that clarity and cognition, don't think, oh, I'm just getting older. My memory's not what it used to be. Mm-mm, not an
And that's
excuse.
what you hear. People say, "Oh, I'm getting older," or
Mhm.
people, talk about, "Oh, is it," because I have friends and family, and they talk about it. "Oh, it's menopause. It's menopause brain." Like when
Yeah.
you're pregnant and you get the pregnancy brain, you forget
Right.
and and
Right.
and sometimes when you look at that, and I don't like to overthink things, and then sometimes the worst thing is to Google it because it's all
Right.
bad,
Right.
right? Google's my
Dr.
best friend
Google.
to an extent. But yeah, and hearing you talk about these areas, the sleep and obviously maybe we'll talk a little bit about the eating habits, but
Mhm.
the sleep and the energy is super super important. And I
Mhm.
personally struggle through that sometimes. Is
Mhm.
I try to get at least 8 hours, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's 6 hours. Do I wake up really groggy? The only time I wake up really groggy is if I don't go to bed till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm
Mhm.
up 4 hours later, right? Because
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
you start to feel where your body feels a little numb, and you're
Right.
like, and that's the first thing you do is, oh, you drink coffee, but the first thing I do is I drink the water, flush out all that.
Good.
I'm
That's
not a
good.
doctor, but still, it's just certain
That's
things that
good.
I do that because everyone's body's different. You have to know like
Yep.
what works and what doesn't work for
Yep.
you. But
Mhm.
this is great information. So I
That's right.
definitely rated myself here.
Good, good. So keep going. You got two more.
All
Okay.
right.
The next one is relationships, and you're going to go, what does that have to do with my overall health, well-being? And well, the blue
Important.
zones, Guess what they have
Yes.
in common? It's not the food. It's not the type of exercise. It's not that. When they
Yep.
look at all the blue zones, what do they have in common? They've got strong support systems around them. The
Yes.
blue zone in Loma Linda is because of a religious group there, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so it is having a strong support system cannot be underestimated. So, you don't have family, friends, you have colleagues at work, and you're not intimate with your partner. That whole
Yeah.
intimacy's gone away. Women go, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm getting older. I don't care about sex anymore." Well, no, I'm
No.
talking about intimacy. And,
Yes.
and that is an important part of a relationship. And a 10 would be you got a great tribe around you, you got all these great people, and you're having great sex. That's
Mhm.
a 10.
Mhm.
We can't
Mhm.
push off the intimacy thing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's very important because you are right. When you're with someone for a really long time, I've been with my husband for 35 years,
Yeah.
and I literally feel
That's
like it was just yesterday, but it's teamwork. It's not always
sure.
like the one-sided, and it
That's
is
right.
teamwork, and
That's right.
you have to keep that going. And
You do.
yeah, as you're getting older, do you have that intimacy like every single day, 100 times a day when you first get together? No.
No,
But
no.
it dissipates a little bit, but as long as it's still
That's right.
there, because
It's
when
part
it's
of it.
not there, you start to feel separated. Like
That's exactly right.
Lucy, Ricardo, like
Yes.
no, you start separate beds.
Sleep in
Heck
the separate
no.
bed and all, yeah, no, we need
Right,
the
right. And
intimacy.
then
Yeah,
yeah, and then it goes down the wrong path. But
that's
that's
right.
what people really do fall into. And I'm glad you're
Good.
mentioning relationship
Yeah,
because a lot of that
yeah.
behind that relationship is emotions too. So
Of
I
course
love
it
it.
is. Of course it is. Not feeling,
Yeah.
the sex box is interesting. Again, the differences between male and female. If you put a little box to say, how does it work? Males is on off. And the on button could be happen. They look at a light switch and it looks like a penis. Everything every few seconds reminds them of sex. They're built that way to help
Yes.
propagate our species. It's on and off. Right?
Yes.
Women, the box, lots
Opposite.
of bells and whistles and knobs because you have to feel pretty. You have to feel
Mm,
attractive. The house has to be clean. Kids have to be
yep.
in bed. All this stuff has to be done or be
Hmm.
okay before the sex light bulb comes on for women.
Yep. Well
And
said.
we have to know it and just say plan it and date night and whatever you need to do, start making
Hmm.
it happen. And older women, especially menopause, start having vaginal dryness. It is hormonal issues, and those need to be balanced. They need to be
Hmm.
balanced. There's many ways to do it, hormones or not. You have to look at pathways and
Yes.
make sure you're safe. There's safe ways to do these things. And then
Hmm.
there's things that are non-hormonal that can work. So taking care and not just saying, oh, I'm not going to listen to my body. It's because I'm getting older. That's what this whole health audit's about. Your
Hmm.
body's giving you signals. And if you're having some vaginal issues or painful intercourse, something needs to be taken care of,
Yes. Go to the
and it
doctor.
can be.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hmm.
Last one is spiritual health. You ready for that? Because
Hmm.
you want to be able to let the body go into a parasympathetic state, which is where you release all of your own pharmacy, the best
Yes.
medicine in the world, no side effects, the right dosage at the right time. All of that is when we are floating in this space of feeling connected to something outside of ourselves.
Yep.
So a one is no connection. You feel alone and you wonder if it's all worth it. You're just not connected to anything. You're just kind of going through the steps of being a human or a wife or a mother or the job or whatever it is.
Yes, just getting through your day.
That's right. And a 10 is, we're not talking about turning water into wine here.
Mhm.
It's about the ability to feel a sense of peace and connectedness no matter what challenges are going on in your life at the moment.
Mhm.
You have
Mhm.
the ability in a few breaths because, and this is the last part here, is that if you start your day and end your day in that connection, feeling that connection, if you start your day and end your day, you're going to go to sleep in that connection and you're going to wake up and you're going to be reminded first thing in the morning what this is
Yes.
all about, that it's all okay no matter what. And then no matter
Mhm.
what's happening during the day, you're able to handle it better. So the two most important times to do that: meditation, prayer, breath work, whatever it is that brings you that ability to really feel connected. That first thing in the morning and before
Yes.
you go to bed at night.
And right
Very
before you,
important.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I share that with my clients as well. It's super important. And having that morning simple routine,
That's right.
getting up, don't throw the covers right over your bed. Like have those simple routines. And
Yeah,
sometimes most people are just in a rush. Hurry up, get my
that's right.
alarm. I have a few minutes, and they're rushing out the door,
And they
right?
stay
Or
that way all day long.
yes,
And
yes,
then
and
the
that's how their
adrenal
day
glands are
goes.
going, there's a lot of
Am
bears
I
around
coming?
here.
Am I
I'm in
going?
survival mode.
So
What happens
true.
then though is that they eventually go, I'm too tired. I don't care if there's a bear and you need to
Mhm,
run or fight. You need to go into fight or flight and survive. I can't do it. I'm too tired. And one of
mhm,
the signs that your body will give you if that's happening, it could be cardiovascular, but it's usually your adrenal fatigue, is if
mhm.
you pop up, sit up, or if you're laying down or sitting and you pop up quickly and you get a little
A little
lightheaded,
dizzy. Mhm.
that's probably some adrenal fatigue. And
Mm,
that means you've been running from the bear too much. Yeah.
yes.
So
Love it.
when you look back at your scores now, Nancy, I would
I
say
am. Mhm.
no category should be under an 8,
Okay.
right? And you don't want to ignore an 8. You wouldn't ignore an 8 score for your family or your business. That wouldn't be
Mhm.
acceptable. You're only at an
No.
8, right? So, and then you start, there's plenty of strategies for each one of those that it's a whole nother podcast. But,
Yes.
I'm just saying there are plenty of strategies for each one of those to try to get you into the right kind of flow. But the point is that you should be paying attention to the signals your body is sending you that you should not be ignoring. That's the
Absolutely.
point.
I love it. I love it. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I have one. All of them are above 8, and I have
Great.
one that's a 5,
Yep.
and that is that number one. And but other
Yeah,
than that, it's good, but there's always areas to improve,
that's right. That's
because
it.
we always tend to worry about as we're getting older. I think I've gotten a lot better over this. Is oh my goodness, I'm doomed. My mom passed away of cancer, but there's not cancer that's, running in the family. So you think, oh my goodness, you're going to, and then some of the doctors say, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to be really careful. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then what does that do? Fear factor, here we come,
And that fear and those molecules you
we'll
release
cause
are
it.
some of the most harmful things that we can be exposed to. That's exactly right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And 80% or more of breast cancers, known breast cancers, have no family history.
Hmm.
Some very few cancers are genetic. Most are these
Really?
metabolic. Yes. So most and under 10%. Most
Wow.
cancers, all types, they're caused by these I'm going to say metabolic problems when you have damage to the mitochondria inside the cell. Remember in school you're learning about the powerhouse, the A that makes
Yes.
ATP. That's the
Uh-huh.
mitochondria. When there's damage to that guy, that's when we have seen connections to all types of cancers. So all the therapies that we use in our world of metabolic cancer and brain neurological diseases is using the therapies that work to support and help you with your mitochondria.
Mhm, mhm.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That
So,
is in
ketogenic diet and hyperbaric oxygen are two. There's repurposed drugs, many other things. But you want to start, if you said, what could I do that would increase my stem cells by 8.5 fold? I don't want to go to the clinic and get the injections and hope that something holds and works and they're expensive.
mhm,
What could I do that would start working on my brain health? And if I have cancer cells floating around that may be helpful in pushing back against those cancer cells, it would be
mm.
ketogenic diet, even if you rotated in and out just a couple times a year, or fasting or fasting, and
Yeah,
hyperbaric oxygen. It's amazing.
really? So
Mhm.
the fasting, so this is what I heard. I heard that when you do the fasting, it's the intermediate fasting, and then I hear, oh, you got to fast for 5 days. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'll die if I have to fast for 5 days. But
Yeah.
it's like it's stop at like 7 p.m. and then don't eat until 11 or 12 o'clock the next day. That's what I heard. You know the best. Can you kind of
There are
talk a little bit
different
about
types of fasting, and I tell people you will find the one that works for you. And then when you
Mhm.
do, and you go, this is easy, and it becomes very easy, and then you need to switch it up. Cancer is smart, diseases are smart, and we need to press on it and shock it once in a while with something different. So
Mhm.
intermittent fasting, you're right. The shorter the feeding window, the better, because then your digestion, all your energy is going to digest food, blah, 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 blah. And if we're not eating, then the body can detox, it can repair, it's using energy to do other things and fight diseases. So I do like the don't eat past, it's not even real like 7 p.m. Don't eat for your last meal should be 4 hours before you go to sleep,
Okay.
because then you have food in the system. You're not really fasting until about 5 or 6 hours after that food was eaten. So then if you don't
Yeah.
eat till 11 or 12 the next day, great. Now, if somebody has blood sugar issues, we've got to work differently
Yes,
around that. We have to
absolutely.
work differently around that. But for most people, that's an easy way to do it. Or you could do a 2-day water fast, or you could buy Walter Longo's food. He's got a program. It costs money, but that these food that are prepared, that it mimics the fasting. So
Mhm.
if you don't want to spend the money, then just fast, right?
Right.
So fasting is more and more studies. The more we know about it, it's one of the best things that we say that we can do, and it doesn't cost any money to do it.
Yeah, and that to me, I'd rather fast as I'm sleeping.
Yeah, right, right, right,
Right?
right.
And that would be the best
Sure.
way. Years ago, it's probably been about 4 years ago, my husband and I tried the Whole30
Yeah,
diet. Well,
yeah,
they
yeah,
don't call it diet.
yeah,
It was torture because there was
yeah,
no sugar, right? Because the other thing is everyone, we talk about sugar so bad for you that it
yeah.
causes cancer and all these different things. And
Mhm.
there's truth to a lot of different things that cause different diseases, right? But I hear fasting is the number one. And what
It,
about
it,
sugar? Like, is
It's if
sugar
anything white is not good. White flour,
really?
white sugar, white that. And here's the thing. There's no reason to have the sugar now. We have something called allulose, which is a plant-based sugar that has no calories. It's a sweetener, and it actually has a lot of health benefits to it. So now you're doing something. You can cook with it, you can put it in your coffee, you can do all the things that you think you want made out of sugar. You can do it with something that's actually healthy. Monk fruit's not bad. Stevia is not bad, but allulose is really good, and people should start looking into it more.
So it's allulose sugar.
Yeah,
And
RX Sugar is the brand that I know that does it right and is clean. But there's others, but RX Sugar, and you can get that anywhere.
RX sugar. So that's not, it doesn't have any NutraSweet or anything in it,
No, no,
right? So it's
no, no,
all
no, those
natural.
I would rather you have white cane sugar than
Then
I would
yes,
those artificial sweeteners. They
agreed.
cause more
Agreed.
insulin resistance and obesity and all the problems you're trying not to have in the long run. They're neurotoxic, kill brains. They're bad. They
Mm.
really should not be on the market. So
Wow. So everything white bread, flour, unless you're gonna, use, healthy flours and what have you.
yeah,
Have you
Mid-
have
yeah. Go ahead.
have you written a book about, this type of stuff? Because
There
other
are
people
so many books out there. We don't need another one on this. All I'd say is, okay, what we know is if you want to say what's the healthiest diet that's really been studied, if you're going to stay out
Mhm.
in something long term, it's the Mediterranean diet. It's fish,
Yes.
olive oil, the real butters, avocados, a lot of greens, a few meats. That's it. Anything else is pretty much a cheat. Now, on Mediterranean, you can have some healthy grains, like the ones that are healthy, not white bread stuff, on that. So Mediterranean diet for the most part. And then I like rotating in a keto, getting into ketosis a couple times a year just to kill off a few things and to support
Mhm.
the brain. And you can tell you feel good. Those fuels, when your body makes ketones, your brain, boy, talk about working well, being sharp and clear. And a lot of people love so much the way they feel, they just stay on the ketogenic diet.
And the keto, I've done the keto a few times, and then it I will tell you, at the beginning, it was a little tough because I felt very lightheaded, with the keto, because you don't have the carbs, right?
Well, that shouldn't do it. You don't need the carbs. Your fuel, your better fuel is ketones. That means that you were starving yourself down, but you didn't have enough fuel, so you were not producing ketones yet. The way to do it, you would have done ketones. So if you weren't really testing, like there's Keto Mojo and there's the BioSense, if you're not making ketones, all you're doing is just starving yourself down. And you're going to feel lightheaded and blood sugar is going to go wacky. But if you do the ketogenic diet right, you don't go through that. You might have a couple days in adjustment, but not much. And most people don't. You literally feel good. If you're in ketosis, a lot of people say, I did the ketogenic diet, and I say, did you test? And they go, nope. And I say, then you have no idea if you did the ketogenic
if it's working.
All you did was change your diet up and get rid of some stuff for a
and you're
while.
like, I did it. It was torture, but I did it.
To do it right, you got to know your macronutrients, your protein, fat, and carb. The thing about the keto diet is that it is low carb, and most of your carbs are going to be coming from your vegetables, right? But it's high fat. It's not high protein. It's not like Atkins, and most people eat too much protein and they can't make they're not in ketosis because of it. To do it right, it's if you have cancer, we've got them on 70% fat. 70 and 20% protein and a little bit of carbs coming from the vegetables.
70% fat?
That's what the ketogenic diet is. See, the fact that you're surprised about that tells me you didn't really do the ketogenic.
No, that was years ago. First of all, the next time you think, oh, keto, I'm going to try that. Oh, no.
I know, the newest fad, right? But if you don't have a chronic degenerative disease, like the Parkinson's patients, MS, all that, they've got to stay in what we call therapeutic ketosis. That means they got to be at that 70% fat. They have to work hard to eat that much fat. And fat is in good oils, avocados, those things, coconut oil, all that. But if you don't have those diseases, then you can have less fat, do 60 or 60% fat. We adjust it accordingly to what you're wanting to do. So weight loss.
Wow. This is great information. And I know we have 10 more minutes. We could go on for hours. We'll have to do another podcast on something else as well.
Sure.
And
we'll do women's health, because that's interesting. Women's health is interesting. The whole hormone thing and all that. That
would be very, very powerful. Extremely powerful.
Yeah.
So I know that you and I kind of talked a little bit about the different, the mindsets and cancer, and I think we were also going to touch a little bit about the what is the disease where brain fart. So it was the breast cancer, the studies. There was a new study coming out that it was the cup in the water. Was that what you were talking about?
So, So a couple of things that I think are new that it's good for women, especially to hear. Instead of a mammogram, it's still the gold standard if we need to see the size of a lump so that the surgeon knows and all that. But to go to get your yearly or your every few years, you're radiating the very thing that we're trying to protect. So we've never been a big fan, but it's the best that we have. But your radiation and compressing the breast. So there's something called a soft view now. It is better for dense breast. It's far more accurate. And it works better for dense breasts, but for all breasts. And you lay on a table, your breasts are in warm water, and they use an ultrasound type technology. It's highly rated. It's someday is going to be the gold standard. We're going to look back and go, why in the world were we rated?
Did we do this years ago? Yes.
Like we used to do with shoes size.
Yes.
You'd go into the shoe store and they would put you on an x-ray to see what your size of your foot what shoe size before we knew.
Oh, my goodness.
We laugh at that, but what are we doing with the breast?
Yes.
Now, early prevention, I'm all about, but
absolutely,
by the time a mammogram sees a lump, it's already there and it's probably been there for years. To me, that's catching it early, but that's not prevention. Prevention is the things that we've been talking about here, right? But the soft view or new view, there's different words for it, but new view, soft view, that I think is just, that's what I recommend to my patients now. It will be covered by insurance soon. Right now it's cash pay, but it's not bad. Okay.
And is there certain, all doctors not covering that, but are they doing that, or only certain
No, you have to just, I think you've got
hospital?
to get on, you've got to get in. No, like in Arizona right now, in the Phoenix area where I am in Scottsdale and all,
Yes.
there's one oncologist, female oncologist, that has that device in her clinic. One. So this is new. This is leading edge new. But if you just get on and look under soft view or new view, you'll be able to say near me, find a doctor near you that has the technology, right?
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful to hear. And as you and I talked about previously before our podcast, I read about that years and years ago. It's like, it's not good, because there was this gentleman that had cancer in the family, and he left, and he just traveled and interviewed all these doctors, and that piece, it is very touchy conversation, for women. A lot of women don't like to talk about it. They fear, as soon as you go in, oh my goodness, what are they going to find? But
Yeah.
and so this is just no needle, no nothing. It's just
nothing, no pain.
your,
It doesn't smash them. It doesn't compress them. No radiation. You lay there in warm water.
so put your boobies in warm water, and
That's
there
it.
you go.
And that's it. That's right. That's it.
I love it.
And
I love it.
it's like I said, it's more accurate by the statistics so far. It looks more accurate, especially for dense breasts, which mammograms have a hard time reading. Well, they miss things. So,
yeah.
And then the other thing I think that you'd wanted to talk about, there's a new liquid biopsy, that means a blood draw for cancer markers. So anybody who's concerned or worried, they have one that's for screening, that it screens for 50 different of the most common types of cancer. So you get a blood draw, and it screens for those to see if you have any circulating tumor cells. If you do, then we start looking. But again, that you catch that early, so much easier than somebody coming to me with their stage 4 terminal cancer patients that have been through radiation and chemo, and they're just, their body's been through a lot, and they're stage 4, much easier to catch early. Then if you do have a cancer, they have different panels, but I like the panels because it gives me, for their particular cancer, they learned to take the cancer cells out of the blood. They've found out how to keep it alive long enough to test it against different things. What are the different things? The different kinds of chemotherapy and off-label drugs, all the standard of care things that a regular traditional oncologist would be looking at, but it's going to tell us what percentage of their cancer cells died from that therapy, as opposed to, oh, you have this is the staging, and this is what we do, step 1, 2, and 3, and let's hope it works. And that's good data. I mean, they've got data behind it, but this is personalized. And then it tells us the natural things, resveratrol, metformin. I won't even say natural, because like metformin is a drug. But any of the outside of the box, but still scientifically sound science behind it, that it works against cancer. It tests against all of those things over here. Mistletoe, all these things that people are reading about for cancer treatments, most of the things are tested. And then you get to say, well, it's only going to kill 23% of cancer cells, probably not worth those vitamin C IVs. Right. So it's just good data. People need to know about it. It's called DATAR, DATAR. They just can look. I'm sure you can. They could get to my office, and we could hook them up with a representative. Just hook them up, or try to find somebody in their area. But you have to have a doctor's signature to sign for it
to do that.
But it's good information, both screening and also if you have cancer. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we have like 5 more minutes to talk about aneurysm. So you and I are talking, well, can you detect that before it happens? I lost my father in 2018, and I just lost my aunt a month ago from these aneurysms. And it's a something that happens that you have. There's no warning, and it just happens to you. It's like, what is the cause of it, and how can you prevent it if you could?
Right. So there's no, and first, I'm sorry for you, those losses.
Thank
Those are
you.
tough ones,
Thank you.
and they're quick. The
Yes.
point is, there's no signs and symptoms ahead of time. There's no 7 pillars telling them something's wrong. You just have an outpatching, a weak part of that wall, and it bursts. But
Mm-hmm.
you can find them and see them. Some ultrasounds will do it. A CAT scans will do it. People know, a lot of people know they have aneurysms in the brain or they have abdominal. They know they're sitting there and they measure them. So we keep an eye on them. We say if you're under 5.4 centimeters, or ways that we look at it. Is it getting bigger? Is it stable? And once it hits a certain size, they can go in and surgically put in a mesh or a way to hold it and make it more steady and help us. So there is help and there is a way to look ahead of time. CT scans are usually the way, CAT scans are usually the way that they're looking for those. But most people don't get, and the doctor's not going to order a CAT scan
No,
because you don't have any symptoms.
That's right. That's right.
But Nancy, you have family history. So you get to say, I want you to look.
Yes. Yes.
Look.
Yes. And it was so, you always think like, how could this happen? Is this at the medicine? And, my dad had kidney disease, but that, and then he was taking those blood thinners and like all these things, and they really don't sit there and the doctors don't really explain it. This is what it is. You really can't say what the cause is. And I understand that, but, how, what can you do to try to prevent it?
Well, and the thing that will make that burst is hypertension, is when the blood pressure goes up. So high blood pressure is a big one. So if you know you have an aneurysm, the one thing you can't have is high blood pressure. And there are natural things that we have that show that they help what's called the endothelial lining or strengthening those vessels. So we have some natural things that can help strengthen the tissue itself.
Yes.
But you cannot have that high blood pressure. And first you want to know, is it sitting there? Is it there? Then you need to pay attention. Right.
Wow.
And you keep monitoring it to make sure it's under that size, that size has been determined, that after that size, it's more likely to rupture. Right.
Well said. Thank you so much, Dr. Warden. This was an absolutely phenomenal educational podcast. And I'm so very grateful and blessed to have got to know you. And we had a referral. So I was like, oh, you have to talk to Donese. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to. And our conversation, we just hit it off really quick. So I'm really excited to, work with you and get to know you more. And where can my audience find you?
Well, my website is drwarden.com. So drwarden.com. The office phone number is 480-588-2233. And then I'm out there on social and you'll have all that. When you post it and do all that stuff that I'm terrible at. I'm going to get better in June. I'm really going to do a bigger push to do a lot more education and do a lot more of this. But in the meantime, I love doing these podcasts. It's so fun. And Nancy, you've been fun and delightful.
Thank you.
And these are the kind of podcasts I love. Organic, just talk.
Yes, me too. And we're going to have plenty more. So I thank you again so much. And thank you, audience, for listening to this phenomenal episode. And we will be posting this episode on the 17th.